this is a good opportunity early on to have a look at that annual report, and I would ask Councillor Okaniki.
Mino tātou, I te kaihanga kei noi kia koe ke manakitia mai mātou I tēnei rā, ke manakitia mātou whānau kei ngā kangamaha. Manakitia e rau e mauiwi ana, e rapakore ana, e pani ana, uhia mai o tō marangi ata whaikiringi a mātou katoa I tēnei rā. Gloria ki tō ingoa tapu.
Thank you. And so just in terms of the annual report, we did have some feedback that went back through to Monique. Did that come to you?
I got an email from, when was it? Wednesdays ago. But the second email on that one was not sure anyone responded. So it was like almost it was an email from yourself to the team.
Yeah.
And then we weren't quite sure what responses were from that. So
Monique said, well, if they didn't respond, it might mean that they don't object. Did we from our, so I just listed out what principles we might be following in the annual report and what our tone might be. Did everyone have a look at it or review it, or is that a good place to start, or do you want to start from the beginning?
Sounds like the beginning.
So we did get asked to do this, and I did bother to put that in writing, so it's sort of hard when I don't get responses. So what I suggested was that we're sharing information about what TCC has done with the investments via rates from our people. As a first point, the report needs to acknowledge our people are the audience. We don't oversell TCC's achievements, and we actually report what hasn't gone well as what has gone well. We report using our principles, value for money, looking after our assets, and the other four we've got. Just in terms of timing, we report projects that have started and budget is approved, so that have got to the delivery committee. So there was a bit of a mixture in this that we're talking about the Mount College pool, for example, which hasn't got a budget yet, hasn't been approved by the council. So to me, that doesn't fit in the 24-25 annual report.
Just mentioned.
I'm just on that there.
That's what I wondered if it should be, yeah.
What does overselling it look like to you?
I'm not sure. That's just, I know I'm not being that specific. I'm just saying if we've got principles that we go back to, it makes it a little bit easier, because otherwise we've got 171 pages that we're trying to get into a similar tone.
Yeah, but that was a Q&A for you.
No, I've got 11 if you'd wanted to read my email.
I just didn't respond.
So we report projects that have started and budgets approved, i.e. they've moved to delivery committee, because that's our rule when they move to delivery committee, and we report projects that have been completed. We needed to decide the order of the projects, because at the moment I don't know whether we should do them by ward, by date, by size. And at the moment there's quite a lot of projects and I couldn't work out what order that they are necessarily in. We ask ourselves for each of those project reports, so what? Why do our people, the audience, want to know about it? I didn't know, one of my questions was, how do we make sure that there's a chatter about each ward? Because if we've got a lot of projects happening in Te Papa and the Mount, what do we look at? Some fairness of by ward, what do we need to do? Is that something as a principle we need to think about?
I heard that. That's great. I appreciate it.
I've just said as a principle, because we are still debating the strategic direction, debating some of the wording at the moment, the wording is very much the commissioner's wording. In case Steve heard that one as well. So
I sure did. Thank you, Jen.
So I've just said go easy on the strategic direction part. Don't be too wordy on those, particularly if we're not saying anything different than we've said before. And
Sorry, just on that, Steve's rewording what we did the other week, is that done?
it's, well, Steve's put it forward to us and
so
we haven't, if we haven't objected to it, then I would have thought it's done,
So
yes.
can't we use that as our basis going
I'd
forward?
like to. Is that something everyone's happy with?
Well, we probably need to agree as a group that it is right.
One of the points within the general annual report is to report against your annual plan for the year, which is effectively the LTP. So the annual report reports against the first year of the long-term plan by definition in the Act. Clearly other things can happen as well, but that's the framing of the starting point. This was the plan at the beginning of the year, and this is what's happened at the end of the year.
So you're saying our version of that, whatever, the next one?
I haven't seen your version of that, so I have no idea what's in it. What it looks like.
Different wording, I think. Essentially, it's the same framework, I think.
But at the moment, we have to put in things like the community outcomes as they are adopted. As at the 30th of June, they are still the ones which were adopted back with the LTP.
And so the principle I'm referring to there, though, is that there's quite a lot of words around the linkages into the strategic objectives, and it's whether we need all of those words if they weren't our strategic objectives in the first place. That was a question. It's a question mark. And I just made a comment. A principle that it doesn't need to be as wordy as it's been in the past, which are not, I don't. How many pages is our normally 171 or something? I think we've got here, have we?
Annual report, we've got 350 actually.
Yeah, but this is
100 so far in the first 4
170.
sections.
Yeah. So I would just be shorter on words than longer. And the suggestions that I shared on tone was friendly but professional, engaging but humble, and clear and concise. Please edit and reshare. So it's right. What we said was we don't necessarily want to go through and have 11 of us making edits on a hard copy, which is why we got the Word document, and which is why we suggested maybe we have some principles and tone. Shall we start with tone? So I'll put those on the table as friendly but professional, engaging but humble, clear and concise.
Yeah.
Is that where people are thinking? Give Martin, Rod?
I said in that meeting with the other day, I think we should, certainly if we're proud of what we're doing, we should be happy to say that, but without being over the top, I agree.
So engaging but humble, does that cover a tone?
I think it's reflective. Sorry to jump in. I can't see any opportunity to raise my hand, but
Please do, because
I think it's important that we reflect on who our audience is and the fact that the perception survey is where it is now. Small number, but that number is building after every wave, and the vector shows that we've got work to do. So I think having shouting when we can, but through the majority of the document, maintaining a humble disposition, I think is good, personally.
Thanks, Steve. So, and reflect in our audience and the principle that the reports acknowledging our people are the audience. Is that, and that's what you're thinking our audience is? Tauranga, the people of Tauranga? Happy. So that the reports acknowledging our people are the audience, and just we've got agreement on that one.
Yep, I don't know who else it would be.
Well, we're just trying to get agreement, Rod. So
Just on that, the staff, is there any other audience?
That's the assumed audience.
That's what you're doing now. Yeah. That is fine.
So can we just therefore talk about which projects we include and which we don't? So the suggestion is that we report projects that have started and budgets approved, or projects that are completed.
Just a question, when you say report, is this talking about the narrative at the beginning? Because I think in the financials, we have to report.
Yeah, not this, I'm just talking about the wording at the moment. Yeah, absolutely.
So those projects completed and contracted.
So anything that's got to the delivery committee, because it started and the budget's approved, or it's completed, which is also started and budget approved, but it might have been approved the year before. So it's really just saying, do we want to mention projects like the Mount Pool, which are not part of really of till June 2025, as a project?
Question for Jeremy. So is this a scene painting thing? Are we projecting what's happening in the future in this report, or is it just purely facts and figures and what's happening?
The pool stuff is in there. My reference is on page 40 under Aquatic Network Plan, which is the decision that you made to progress the Aquatic Network Plan, of which the Mount Pool was one proposal within that. It's not a physical works project at the moment, but it's a key decision that council made through the last annual plan process, and whether you wanted to include it here because it was made during the year or not, that's your call. There's no rules as far as what you highlight in the front sections. So if you don't collectively want to reference that as a good news story or a news story through the year, then it doesn't have to be in there.
I think we should be casting forward. I think we should be forward looking. We should be.
That's an example I pull up because I don't think we can, because Ministry of Education hasn't approved it. And when we talked about it with Alistair Sinton, the principal of Mount College, he just said, can we just be careful about what we're reporting on Mount College grade refurbishment? So that one to me needs to come
A
out.
specific example. Yep, I agree.
Yeah.
That makes that one a go. But we shouldn't be afraid to be casting forward on it. It is the one document that goes out in a year that records the year, and to me it should record where we're heading. Something like that.
And would that be a section on looking ahead rather than the fact that, because this is the report of till June 2025, do you then, and that's some people do put in the annual report looking ahead.
So for context, section 5, which you haven't seen yet, which is the groups of activities section, so it goes down each group of activities. There are 3 narrative sections attached there, highlights of the year, challenges for the year, things which didn't go as well, and what's coming next. So
Okay.
activity by activity, there is a forward lens in that section.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, because I know the MOE one, it's not determined, but we obviously made a decision to go ahead with it, which is an exciting thing for the future. Whether the dollars have been spent this year, I mean, it's not, so certainly showing our, yeah, it's an interesting one.
But I know, and I think we covered then with section 5, which we haven't got, because we can therefore, if it's not fitting in it's in delivery committee, it's started or finished, then it can definitely go into looking ahead. And I think the looking ahead is quite a neat section to say, how is this? And that may well start with the strategic objectives are being reviewed, and we are still very much against our principles of value for money and looking after our assets. And we've put in an aquatic plan, and these are the things that we are also looking at. And the roading, there'll be some roading stuff in there, won't there?
Much stuff, but yeah. So it needs to only focus on what's coming up in the next year,
Correct.
because the following year it's long-term plan, so we need to the long-term visions for that plan.
Yeah.
So that's what. So this section's what we're doing now. Next section's what we hope to look at.
Yeah,
Next
section 5.
18 months.
Yeah.
No more. Yeah, that makes sense.
You have just published your annual plan this year as well, which is your look forward document.
Yeah.
Does that end all this report in that future focus section look at what's been pushed down the long-term plan as a result of the decisions we made in the annual plan process?
Not really,
Never really talk about that.
Okay.
because all those decisions are still to be made. I mean, something may not be in this year, but it's in the annual LTP. You've got another 6 or 7 years of the LTP to still do it within the LTP timeframe.
All those that are interested know where to go, look,
Yeah, it's just about bridging the
but
gap.
it's just
with all those that are interested.
still on the list. It's just a bit further down the list.
So just again, back to principles. As an overriding principle, are we using the annual report to share information about what TC has done with the investment via rates of our people? Is that our aim of the annual report? Yes, Martin, Rod,
What I thought so, yeah.
just trying to get some feedback, guys.
Just noting
What's
it's
been
not,
done on the, what's been done on the past? What's the intent been in the past?
well, it's not just about via rates. It's rates, user fees and charges, grants, government contributions, all your revenue.
Yes, that's it.
And that's exactly what the annual report does. It says this is the money we
This
get
is
in,
what we do.
this is what we spent, this is what we delivered.
Yeah, so that would be a
That would
broader catch-all.
It's a normal approach.
So just in a generic word, whatever that is, but yeah, it's not just about rates.
Just getting feedback, guys, don't, you know.
Don't be shy.
I know, well, I'm trying to.
Okay,
Just 'cause that's what they're doing already.
So I've suggested that we do want to say, and this is about how wordy we get, that we do ask, so what? What are we, when we look at our section, we say, what's the message we're trying to get across? What are the, why might people want to see this and read it?
Just on readership, Jeremy, what do you sort of put that at currently or over the years?
We've been broadcast for perpetuity, aren't we? A lot. I wouldn't say this was a John Grisham, Lee Charles sort of document.
So how much you probably can see how many times it's downloaded on the website. Do you know that number?
No, I don't.
Is it,
Wouldn't be
Do we
really-
know how it compares to the annual plan? Like, is this referenced a lot more by the community than that?
I haven't got the details on downloads, and I would probably be a little bit careful because staff going back and looking at
Can you, is it possible to easily extract the numbers minus the internal, or do you not have a record of that?
it didn't exist because that just downloads off the website.
I can talk to the digital guys and find out, but we don't get a lot of commentary from the community back via questions, CCMs, letters to the editor about the annual report.
Then it's
We do-
sort of raised, sorry,
LGFA will look at it, people who are investing
yeah,
will look at it. It's got a much wider financial audience. It's not, and that's probably more about the back end, really trying to understand what the financials are about. So it probably has wider use then, and over time.
And I guess that's why it's sort of like words cost money because they have to be decided on, and I don't think we print it, but people do print at home. So it's actually to say, let's make sure we are clear and concise and not just putting in words because we need to put in words.
I guess like we have, I haven't sort of with you before with this, but we have for the plans the short version, the summary version, and it's whether, because I mean presumably there's a media release goes out when this is up, and but
Yeah,
it's
summary.
so there is a summary.
Legislative.
So how long is the summary? I'm trying to remember. I've never really looked at summary. It's about 40 okay,
Sorry,
40 pages. Okay, because I presume that's what would have a
that
higher
including
ratio.
financials.
And it's all.
It doesn't have all of the notes to accounts, but it's got basically the P&L and balance sheet, and I think movements and equity. It doesn't have any of the groups of activity financials.
Just the key tables.
It's the key tables, yeah.
And a summary of the wording.
And it's, it's audited as well, and you cannot introduce any new information into that summary.
Right.
It has to be a direct copy from the annual report, those key sections.
So I would like to propose we try not to have it. I would propose we try to be more concise with words than adding. Because complexity, well, adding the time it takes to review extra words, if anything, as a suggestion.
Sorry.
We started later. And the other thing is, so just in terms of how we order projects, like at the moment, is there have these gone in with a reason for the order of them, Jeremy? I couldn't work it out.
No, you can change the order. They're ordered by community outcome. That order is just the traditional way we go through each community outcome, and then the project within each community outcome. There is a logic. Generally, bigger earlier, smaller later.
Yeah.
But that's highly subjective.
Yeah. So I just because I did. Yeah, some of them I sort of thought we went from a playground to something that wasn't at all in the nice space, and then back to a playground, and I sort of wondered how that order was. So do you think from is it size of projects that we probably should be thinking order wise, or amenities, or award?
I would have thought it's more around the areas of business that council does, to be honest. I don't think the awards are that relevant, to be honest, and this type of question. I would have thought it's more around the type of work we're doing, like what we're doing in the reserves and spaces, what we're doing in roading, what we're doing in amenities and facilities. That would be the easiest to follow. I don't know what to do. We're keen to know what that is.
Yeah, so there's in the front sections of the annual report, there's a lot of the focus on the projects based on outcomes, which is what Rachel's been writing. But we also have a financial year in review that we add into section 2 as well, where we go through projects in progress or completed, and we present that in several different ways. So we present it by that kind of business unit. Look, so you've got your waters and your transport and your spaces and places in your city centre. We also added last year at the Mayor's request the completed projects, along with the performance against approved budget and the funding stacks for those completed projects. And then we also have a little word cloud in there that shows, I think, the top 20 projects, which are presented by size, so spend for that year as well. So there's a few different ways that we present all that information.
The cloud word
Oh, cool. I'll tell the team. And then also in section 5, we go through all the significant capital projects by activity area with their spend for that year against the budget for that year, with some variance commentary as well. So it's kind of sprinkled throughout based on the legislation that you're trying to adhere to in that particular section, where we're presenting it in various different ways that might mean something for different people.
So maybe just on the project. So these are the ones starting on. I'm actually now in the Word document. You can see here. Opportunities and challenges. So that highlights opportunities and challenges that wouldn't, with that weird, because
That's the whole of organisation narrative review that's broken down by outcomes and then by the 3 approaches after that. But the key bits, the big projects, are in those 5 outcomes: inclusive city, environment, well planned, easy move around, business and education. But then there is what's in the LTP, which is the setup document that you're reporting against effectively.
So if we look at page 22, for example, which is an inclusive city. So we've got Haumaru, and then Waitaha Reserve, and then Te Manawataki o Te Papa, and then the Memory Meadow, and then libraries and Bay Port. And so it's just really how do they, and then Te Awanui Māori Ward by-election, which is interesting because we haven't got our election. We've got the Māori Ward election.
this is under the inclusive city outcome, and therefore that inclusivity, diversity brings in the model. That's fine. That's what I said.
So yeah, this is a good example. So I found it quite random, the order of those within inclusive city. But I didn't think what's better. So is it maybe sensible to, rather than try to go through wordy, if we just send around the document and say, well, these are the 6 projects inclusive. Can you think of a better order, or should we just leave it as is, or are people not worried about it? I just felt it didn't give me a good read of the document to go from, I didn't quite know, I wasn't taking it in well in the order it currently is. But
To be honest, I'm not too worried about it.
not too worried.
Yeah, I mean, in an ideal world, I'd almost think there should be a narrative through it that's a bit more coherent. But I think then you're getting into writing not quite a novel, but you're writing something a bit more than it needs to be. And I think then there's a question of start time on that. So I'll sort of go, yeah, it's okay. It is what it is, and it's just listing some things. I can't quite see the patterns, but.
So should we at the beginning of an inclusive city, should we put in after the first para, should we say, just have the subheadings of what you're then going to come and talk about, you're going to see. So right at the beginning, you see that there are 6 projects in this section that are going to be reported on. I guess, yeah. Well, at least then when you look at Haumaru, you know that you're also going to hear about the Māori by-election and about something, something or other. So just to me, I just lost where we're at.
It just seems like, I guess, under that whole, what they call the pillars, whatever that. Yeah, like that takes in so much, and we've focused on some random. It seems like some random things, but what about what about including sort of low decile areas like Mirabel and Gate Park having community centres being built? It's just to raise a whole lot of questions. Why is that not there? Why a whole lot of other things
So if you go 5 or 6 pages on Mirabel Community Centre and Gate Park Community Centre are within this section.
Are they out within that?
Yeah.
I don't see that.
So you go Haumaru, you go
So all of that is inclusive.
Nawataki, Memory Meadow, libraries, Te Awanui, waterfront, new
Maybe.
pavilion.
Yeah, they're all there. So, but maybe to Jen's point, it could be that at that start of it, you just had some nice visual of the list of what's coming up in the next 5 pages.
Create an index.
That it satisfies that, because it doesn't bother me, but if it satisfies the.
It might make it easier for people to navigate, because obviously I haven't seen that.
Well, you just see
Well,
what's under
I
there.
was
It's
the
like a
same.
summary, isn't it?
I was
It's a bunch
the same with the community centres. I sort of thought, oh, why are they right at the bottom? Because I thought they were quite important, and we'd spend a bit of time talking about them. And so, but if there was at least an index, then it's quite a nice way of knowing what's in there.
And part of the story as to why they are towards the end and why they are smaller is because they are underway as opposed to completed, which comes back to your kind of original premise that completed things take a degree of precedence. We've opened the pavilion at Gordon Spratt Reserve.
Yeah,
We're
done
building Maryvale Community
Yeah,
Centre.
so there's a logic to it.
So, which sort of also brings that clarity wasn't clear to me. So, is it at the end of Mirabel Community Centre, there is a complete in progress little button, so we sort of are aware of what's been done and what hasn't been done? Because I think in a year's time reading this report, and we can say, well, we had 5 in progress and now they're all completed. So or even not on the title, but in the index, it might be that we've got the index of these are the 10 projects and just a status of in progress or complete.
The words are there, so just bringing it forward. And then Maryvale starts, the construction is underway. Gate Park starts, a new centre is planned. So the information's there, it's just bringing it up
100%,
into a summary.
Okay. And in terms of the order of inclusive city, and then whatever the next one is that just from a?
I think that's probably the same order from the LTP, but again, you can play around with that if you want to. Inclusive, environment, planning, transport, business and education. That's the order at the moment. If you wanted to change that order around, you're entirely welcome to.
I would put like if we say
Yes,
our
yes,
people
yes.
think transport is the most important, I would suggest that it probably gets top billing.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, do people correlate it to the LTP? I mean, will people know? I mean, will they just read it and does it matter?
It seems logical to align it with the LTP.
Alphabetic, yeah, would make more sense.
Well,
I don't know.
none of us knew that what the order was, right? So all of us know the LTP reasonably well, but none of us knew that was well, I didn't know that was the order. So to me, transport is just people will say, what's happening in transport?
When you're asked about readership, it's a fairly small number. The number of people who've got the LTP open here and the annual report open here, it's a smaller number.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's,
Probably actually got a table.
So we replied
go
to
off
doing
and get
it.
it. What they're doing.
And I don't care like how much effort is made. Is there a
Yeah,
requirement
so-
by the department?
Part of the local government act, which specifies what has to be in there, is about 5
What do
pages
you
long.
think?
And the auditors will spend $150,000 telling us what's right and what's wrong, possibly more than that these days. I'm not sure what the audit fee is. Yeah, it's a deal. That's
It's
basic. Well, it's a basic part of your accountability cycle to your community. You take money from them, you do things, you report what you've done with it. It's very much
yeah, and I get the principle.
So in terms of that order, are you comfortable that we send out, this is the projects that are currently in there, under the 5 headings, and then without any of the detail, and then if you've got any response, you come back and say you'd rather transport goes first or not, or I've got no comments. So that we can then say that that's all agreed, just from the order perspective. Yep, okay, so we'll do that.
But what so we could say just leave as is fine.
Correct, yeah,
Which is what
yeah,
stuff, yeah,
yeah.
okay.
And then you'll manage the disagreements where somebody said this is the first one, that's the first one.
Yeah.
Okay, let us know.
Okay, so that's what we're doing. So here's a comment for feedback. In Mirabelle Community Centre, the grand reopening. Do we want to say grand or the reopening? This is where we're talking language.
Pretty grand for Mirabelle.
It's pretty grand for there, yes.
I think it's grand.
Yeah, grand, it is then. And we're all sort of nodding,
Given what they had before, what they're gonna have now, it is.
just because it's been a bit of high profile.
Celebration to me.
A huge celebration.
Good. Okay, so those are. So then just in terms of further up, under the strategic objectives where we're talking through them. Yeah, I'm just going to find those. The 4 highlights and challenges. So this is where. Okay,
Which one are you?
I'm just trying to find it. Yeah, the mayor's fees.
Eventually, it's all basketball court.
We've still got the fishing net, haven't we? There, that's right. Yeah. So
The page after that.
yeah. So I'm going to ask. So the planning cycle. Can we look at page 11? This is a pictorial that I find really unclear, and I wanted to put it up when I did my annual plan consultation. And part of the problem is year 1, year 2, year 3. We're going to read this in August or September 2025.
So it's on page 7 on
sorry.
Stella.
Oh, sorry. Apologies.
Stella,
No, page 11.
I'm on page 11.
on page 7.
7. Yep. Okay.
Oh, that's interesting.
I'm on page 11. Anyway, that's the diagram. Oh, sorry. Yes.
We're looking at the same document.
Here we go. So, yeah, thank
What
you.
page are you? 7. Yeah.
So I've got that on page 11.
But yeah, it's obviously a different version.
So 7.
I got the exclusive version.
Yeah. So it's both.
You go through it.
11 on the agenda and 7 on the Word document.
No, but oh,
Put us 11
Anyway,
or 11.
so to me, this is trying to say sort of where we're at, and I think it's really important because I think we talk about the, you know, as Jeremy said, this is your reporting against the LTP. I think we're reporting against that annual plan because in my head that's how I think, not an LTP, because I've never done one. So when I looked at this, you are here. Was I here on the 30th of June 2025? Or am I here when I'm looking at it when we're doing the annual plan in April 2026? Year one, I think, well, give us the year. Is year one 2024-25?
Yes.
So to me, that needs to go in there. And I just, when we have the LTP, I'd just like a date on that because that's the 2024,
Yeah, good point.
24,
Yeah.
34.
Yeah.
And then annual report was 24, 25.
That's the first year one, yeah.
So it's just, for me, that diagram doesn't add anything, particularly when it hasn't got those dates. And I would be quite comfortable just saying in a much less complicated picture that we have an LTP 24, 20, 34. We do an annual plan of that. But it's just,
The only thing with
confused.
that, like, I totally agree. I think that would be better to have all the dates for each plan and report. The only thing is, you probably then can't have it in a circle, Jeremy, because otherwise it'd go back from 2027 back to 24. So it could just be arranged in a line with an arrow going forward or something, so that it.
I mean, it's a planning cycle, so we do something circular.
Yeah.
Just mix the year one with the year.
well, we can take that last, we can take the last arrow off that goes back to LTP 24, 34.
So yeah, we can add those dates, absolutely. I mean,
No, it's just a generic circular thing.
it is just a generic, it's the same diagram which is used in the LTP, in the annual plan, in everywhere. I appreciate that you are here, which is, you know, it should be closer to perhaps the annual report box. This is the 25-26 annual report, but we can put dates in those.
I do know people get very confused about the years. And especially when you talk 2025 and they think we're in 2025 and I'm saying I'm at the 2026 year. So having the 2 years is helpful, I think. For that.
We tend to try and do 24/25. So it starts halfway through 24 and into 25. The finance guys like FY25 or FY26.
So I use that.
But for the community, we try and do more or less a slash. Yeah, July to June thing.
So you go back to the same.
But it is a planning, it's just that right in the,
Are we discussing literacy thinkers or numeracy thinkers? If you're literacy, this can be confusing, but if you're numeracy, it makes sense.
And I think even in the wording of planning cycle and annual plan, we've never said LTP 24, 34. So it's just, you know, that it makes it, we just need to be,
So
I think it's quite clear enough.
the previous page,
it's
page
up to the
6,
previous page.
has got
Here,
the long-term plan 2024-2034 brackets LTP, and then after that we used LTP.
Yeah.
It's just
so it refers to-
trying to set it up.
So that's the
I
current
started on
LTP.
planning cycle and I just was, missing it there. Okay. Okay, so then after that, our direction strategic framework. And so that's the order at which we then do the project. So if we change the order of the project, we probably would change the order of this, which is fine, I think.
Yeah, we can do that again as a graphic, which is taken straight from the LTP.
Yeah.
Change it.
Someone else's LTP. So Steve, just in terms of our direction and the changes we've been talking about, are you comfortable? You do have feedback on page 12 and 13?
I sent through to the team some wordage based on our statements or our sentences to incorporate. It is so similar.
So
very similar.
And so the fact that those might be our next year's annual plan or annual report anyway, you're comfortable with how these read at the moment?
Yes, because yeah, we haven't adopted those, and I think that's probably got to be done through a public meeting where we adopt those. So yeah, no, I'm comfortable with that being there as a reflection of the long-term plan which we were operating under.
Right.
And Steve is correct. To change the community outcomes, there will need to be a resolution of council. And we are obliged to report against community outcomes.
Great. Okay, so 12 and 13, everyone's happy with. The mayoral's speech we don't need to worry about. Statement of compliance. So when does that? Is that just that's in a formal thing that
Comes from audit, yeah, and it gets signed on the day of adoption. Okay.
So introduction, are we wanting to do any wordsmithing on introduction? Steve, you're happy with introduction?
Yep.
And everyone's happy with on our economy. That's probably on page 19 in Stella.
Could we talk about the growth per capita as well, whenever we talk about economic growth? Because ultimately with population growth, you know, and economic growth, it's just what central government has sort of moved more towards in recent years. So for a while there, last decade, sort of under the key government, they were doing the headline growth, economic growth, because it told a better story, I guess. But now there's a recognition that it's better to actually do the total growth and the per capita growth. So to me, that would make more sense. It's not many more words. It tells a much clearer story. We know it'll be lower, but it'd be really interesting to see what it actually is. And just sort of put that in there. It could just be in brackets if you want or anything. Yep, we can do that.
Page on the
There are the other thing for maybe not for this year because it'll probably take a process, but something which has come up quite a bit in stakeholder discussions with the council when I used to be a stakeholder was the idea of looking at the economic side, particularly from the perspective of low income people. So getting a diversity of measures. So rather than just a blunt economic growth measure, look at, you know, like what the increase has been in the net income of the lowest decile households, and there's for Māori Pacifica households, all those kind of things. So I'm not trying to jam that into this year's one, but I think it's, in terms of going forward, it's always quite interesting to see a bit of a.
Is that our business? Though?
Yeah, it's just wondering.
Not really.
It's not really our wheelhouse, is it?
No, it's not really.
Well, it's not our. I mean, economic growth is not our wheelhouse either. But I think when we're talking about the economy, it's kind of broadening out the commentary on it to sort of look at what is the story that's happening here. Just like with the environment, just like with everything else, just trying to build a perspective.
It's not really it's not our core business.
no, but nor is
Nora's growth.
growth. Like nor, yeah. So
Yeah,
I think it's
that's why it's so brief, because it's just giving a quick overview of what's happening. That's it. That's all we need. Because we as council don't really have a lot of input. Growth is dictated by how many businesses turn up.
do we acknowledge though that in terms of this, because it is saying, however, recent economic headwinds have contributed to unemployment, do we just add in there that that there has been a need, you know, we are homelessness is in our wheelhouse, concern protests over rates are in our wheelhouse. Concern about, you know, what we're making sure we're not doing, vanity projects is in our wheelhouse. Do we just make a comment in there that that does impact on the way the investment into Tauranga is looked at? I just think it would be good to, you know, because we are trying to broaden what we're looking at for Tauranga, and this is just talking the positives, you know, the good stuff. And I think we do need to, I would like to acknowledge that.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at, that it doesn't tell the real story. Well, it doesn't tell the real story of the impact of the economy on, like, if you had to pick, like, in the last year, does this reflect what's happening in Tauranga's economy? You go, yeah, maybe for people who are well off. Certainly for people like us, probably in the room, you know, we're kind of going along probably okay. But there are a lot of people out there who are really hurting and who are saying they are struggling more than ever in their life. And, you know, I read that, and that's why I'm saying I'm not trying to make a big stand on it in this report, but and things might change next year. But I just think it's always good to capture a true reflection of what's happening in our city as best we can.
This is the annual report. I've never read one that's highlighted the negative.
Haven't you?
No.
I have.
The annual report's supposed to be a uplifting document, because we haven't got to the financials yet, and that's where it gets uncomfortable.
I disagree, because I think we need to be acknowledging the scope of our role is.
Be positive and uplifting.
We're a public body, not a private company.
Yeah, and our role is looking after the people of Tauranga, and we need to consider them. And I just think, you know, a sentence that says, despite broader economic pressures, the local economy has continued to perform well with growth in key economic wellbeing indicators. And I think it's, rather than that, I think I would say a reflection well, as a result of that, what we've said earlier, that the tough economic, the subdued growth, there's also needing to be a change in focus to ensure that to look after the people of Tauranga.
But do we as council have any control over that? It's just a normal economic cycle.
It's
control
so
over
it's a reality, though, that you know.
It's just an economic cycle. It just happens.
And it's, I guess, to go through, maybe to take it away from this, because I've said it over different views, if you go to the environment, it's the same issue as well. Like, can we control carbon emissions in the city? You know, I think we have some control or some influence, but it's very limited probably. And similarly with the economy, we have some influence. We potentially have a bigger influence on the economy in some ways because of, you know, showing leadership, comments by the mayor, setting the rates, investing in certain things to boost certain aspects of the economy. You know, so to me, you could argue either side for either of those two things. But we typically talk about the environment, typically talk about the economy. If we don't want to talk about it at all, that's kind of a different consideration for me.
Can we draft a sentence that might go in there and share it, see if we've got majority support for or against it? Yeah, do some words on that on a sentence.
Right.
Thank you. Be great.
So Glenn, are you sort of thinking some economic infographic?
So this is in your wheel.
I know. So I hear what you're saying, and I think it makes great sense. But like, how deep into the data do you want to go, and how?
Not too deep.
So, which I think, though, if you're going to look at a part of analysis, so for example, if you're going to look at per capita GDP, you could be looking at what's coming into Tauranga City on a GDP, and then you'd break that up by population, and all of a sudden you've got your GDP per capita, and in which case then you'll be considering what would be the return on investment almost kind of scenario. So does 55,000 per person actually quite? The good thing I guess around that is that year on year you could actually be watching that GDP growth and whether or not it's decreased the subsequent year and how is the rates going to reflect on that. But I think what you're talking about, you're right, we've got disparity and we've got disparity probably at a SA2 level. And so it's understanding those communities and where that is. So I feel like that's a whole, almost like a data piece that might, like this, that should inform this, but we just don't know how, which part of the project or which part of the puzzle that kind of needs to.
I guess that's why I chose low, like just for one of better, and you might have a better view on this, that if you had to pick one thing, you'd probably go GDP per capita, because tracking that over years is more useful than just GDP. And then the second thing I mentioned at some point could be the lowest decile or a proxy for it, or lowest quartile, whatever is recommended by the experts. Like,
Agree, and it's common practice across councils that they actually do calculate GDP. So it's not an unusual
that's why
indicator to be measuring.
So do we have that as an indicator? Do we have that measure?
I'm just getting somebody to have a look at the what's in the LTP as far as the KPIs for economic development, but I don't know, but we used to have an economic development per capita or a GDP per capita in there, but compare it against the national.
So I just,
Check that.
in terms of a sentence that's going about the tougher times, later on in the environment section, it says our role at Tauranga City Council is to understand the challenges our city faces and work with our communities. But that's sort of what I'd like to see further up, to say, just to acknowledge that it's just broadened a little bit to cover that.
Yeah.
Okay. Lovely photos. So again, so highlights, opportunities and challenges we're talking about, those are the community outcomes and approaches. They are what we're comfortable with, that we talked about, that we might change slightly for the year ahead, but not this one. And then we're just going through the projects, which I think we've probably talked through. We'll make sure we're happy with the order of the projects. We'll come back on that one. Does anyone have any specific wording or principal changes in terms of how the projects have been described?
Good to go.
So that takes us to the end of page. Yeah, so outcome measure results, page 28. Is this a requirement to report like this?
These are all the measures in the LTP, and we are required to report against.
No, I realised that they were all the measures. I just thought, how is that a requirement? So it is. Oh yeah, so we're doing them for each section. So where do we got to? I just need to get to them after. So transport, no feedback. Martin Rod. Just the bottom of the projects. Orders. So we're on page 46. Yeah.
Do we want to mention at the end of the fluoride section to put a positive sort of conclusion around that, we're in the process of opening 3 community unfluoridated supply points to cater for the
I would have thought so.
demand.
A little too late. What's the end date for this report?
June.
June. So
We could pitch it in terms of looking forward. I know we've done one, but
I guess the planning.
We've
We've agreed to whatever we didn't.
Yeah, agreed to.
Agreed to open in the near future. Or
It's a similar principle that you haven't opened Maryvale Community Centre yet, but it's included in there. So if you wanted to add
Yeah,
something
that
about
comes-
that, that's fine.
Mount Holm.
It's underway. The auditors aren't going to say no, it's not, because it is.
So again, just on page 46, we did have Steve's definition of that if elected members are called council with a capital C. Are we talking elected members or are we talking council? So an indicative business case was presented to council in December 2024. And then TCC, Tauranga City Council, 3 paragraphs down, formed an executive oversight group. Do we know who they were for the waters?
So the executive oversight group was Christine, Alistair, Paul, and Nick.
So therefore the staff, so again, I'm just elected members versus Tauranga City Council. I just would like to make sure, Steve,
So we've used Tauranga City Council as the organisation.
Yes, Jen? Yep.
well, I'm just on your
Hmm.
definition, do we have elected members or what's our, I'd like your clarity that you had.
Yeah, I think, and I respect the fact that Jeremy was an earlier adopter of the new lingo, which is good. I think it was council with a big C for elected members and staff or officers for organisation or.
Yeah, because we didn't form the executive oversight group on waters, did we? I didn't remember doing that. So that to me looks a little bit odd. Even if it says an executive oversight group was formed, it's just not to say that that's confusing as to how that was formed.
The Tauranga City Council is 3 words, is TCC, which is the organisation. So can't really change that. You just call us elected members or call us councillors. That's fair enough, isn't it?
Well,
TCC is Tauranga City Council, I'm
They
sure.
could, I mean, it could be that anytime council is used, it means elected members, but it doesn't stop elected members also being used potentially. If we want to mix it up a bit.
Because
Absolutely.
further down in the section,
Yeah.
when the report refers to the elected members, it does say that, collectively, we're known as the elected members
I think the bigger point for
as
me
a
is
definition.
your point, Jen, around it does make it look like in the previous financial year, we formed an executive oversight group. I think it would be clearer to say that the council had previously formed an executive oversight, or so, in the prior year or whenever it happened, just something to really make it crystal clear that was a sort of something carry on.
Again, I'm not sure about the word, but if I read Tauranga City Council, that's the organisation. I can't be any clearer in my head. So do people not see that?
no.
But then how's it referenced by staff?
Did
How
that
do you
mean
guys reference yourself?
It's clear to me that that's what.
No, that's not.
Tauranga City Council, TCC, Tauranga City Council. So we can't change that.
No, I'm not suggesting. I'm saying
But then,
previously formed, like
Oh.
meaning not in this financial year. That's the only clarification I was thinking could be helpful.
Okay, yeah.
I think it might have been this year. I mean, if you want clarity, you can write the chief executive for the executive oversight group, because he's the one who did. Because he's the one who tells what the executive team to do.
Right.
I think we should have that.
Fine, it's easy.
So are we happy with saying elected members are carefully considering the future delivery model?
Sure.
Because that was what was happening on the date at the end of the financial year.
Yeah, we can probably add another paragraph at the bottom to explain what's happened post balance sheet.
Well, I think the proposed option involves a standalone, independent, board-led water organisation. Can we keep this as the CCO?
Yeah. Even the CCO is probably the wrong terminology now, because they are water organisations rather than CCOs, something that comes through. But we can rewrite, and we probably will need to rewrite this. This was written 2 months ago.
Yeah, great.
So we need to rewrite the bottom half of that to just explain where we're at.
That's page 46. Stormwater, wastewater, we're okay.
And like this, the stormwater, I presume that the graphs later are accurate in terms of the planned investment, the actual investment. So that sort of reflects that there's a significantly greater expenditure on stormwater, if I recall. But there's nothing sort of in this narrative that explains, you know, why that is really.
We haven't presented the graphs for this financial year.
So
You guys, yeah, that was just last year's. I just screenshot it and then to say this is what you can expect to see. So you'll get that on the
Good
2nd
spotting.
of September when we bring the full
Okay.
document to you.
No, I knew that was the case with some. I thought those ones must have been right. So
Yeah,
okay,
so the
okay, let's scrap that. But if there is, I guess the one overarching point is if there's a significant discrepancy in any area, it'd be good to do what we've done for transport, which is to explain why.
We have full explanations further in this section around the variance to budget across the big infrastructure areas for the capital program.
So then we're in the transport section. Again, I'd question whether the bus stops should be ahead of State Highway 29. But that's, if people aren't worried about that, then that doesn't have to change. Any feedback? And then so that's right.
What page have you got to?
On 50. So we talk about the 6 new bus stops and then do State Highway 29 and then do the bus hub. That was the one that I sort of thought we may as well have them together.
Yeah, I agree. After 29.
But I'll put those in order and we'll make sure we're happy with those.
Bus hub's finished.
So what's the criteria now? Stuff that's already been done in order generally, eh?
Loosely,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think we sat down with a committee of several staff to work out what the order should be.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, loosely stuff which is done, stuff which is underway.
Yeah.
Totally in your hands as far as the order of the progress. It's not a problem.
Even Papa Mile East interchange, I'd probably put ahead of Mount Maunganui road safety things, but we'll fix, we'll just suggest that.
Hold up.
The other thing is for turret 15, it's strange wording. It's got, although NZTA has approved 5.2 million for the project's design phase and TCC has allocated further 5.1, the overall cost is estimated at 140. I don't know if it's an although, I think it's just, I mean, that's just really standard that you have a much higher cost. I'm not quite sure why the wording was chosen. So to me, it'd just be easier and quicker just to say, you know, total cost 140 million, including, but if it is really 10.3 million for design. Something along those lines. Yeah, just that type.
And again, just I guess for clarity, so they approve, have we approved or allocated a further 5.1 million?
No, that's allocated, it has been approved.
So it's not in the annual plan. And I would, rather than Tauranga City Council has allocated a further 5.1 million, I would say, and 5.1 million is included in the annual plan. Because that's sort of we're saying was included in the was budgeted in the annual plan. Just for clarity. Cameron Road Stage 2, we're happy that's sitting there.
There's just some discussion about the year of that budget for.
We'll take it offline and double check that.
I thought I'd thrown it down that end of the cable. Ladies going, okay, not sure. So you're happy with Cameron Road 2, Martin and Rod?
Yeah, well, it's partly waiting for a decision, isn't it? Do I pull the trigger or not?
So is that what it says?
So it's going to fit.
What is an upgrade was downgraded? So that are we saying that the priority was,
For them, right?
yeah,
Oh, it's.
I don't know what downgraded means.
Priority's been pushed back.
It doesn't say priority, so
It's all gonna depend on the funding outcome question, isn't it? Can we delay it? Or keep funding, or do we have to pull the trigger early? And we're waiting for a feedback on that.
It almost just needs to be, I mean, this is probably how I write, so I can really relate to it. But I know the critique would be just say NZTA define funding for Cameron Road Stage 2, or, you know, just
correct.
a bit more sort
Yeah,
of.
I just think that's not quite, I don't know what that means, so other people mightn't, yeah. And then outcome measures, we're good.
Pretty well think you on that Regis report's gonna know that.
You're overstating what people know about transport.
What is it? Downgraded, it just means,
I'm just saying.
it means the priority. The message you're trying to get across there is it just dropped in priority.
No,
I just asked.
No,
you,
that is- didn't drop the priority.
what does downgraded mean to you?
Downgraded means that NZTA didn't fund it.
But it says that they declined it, that's written straight below it.
But it wasn't
So it
downgraded.
didn't
It wasn't
downgraded
downgraded.
priority.
I think Jean had the point. It wasn't downgraded as priority at all, according to our chief executive.
Technically, no.
Yeah.
But we can fix the words. to-
Yeah, just words must have.
Marine
Some
precinct
read-
on page 56 and Stella 52 in the document.
Just at the end of that, the last line, right at the end, it says in
Of which
terms
one?
of industry, marine precinct.
Oh, yeah.
Is that
Yeah.
what you said we're on?
Yes.
It says, bottom line, community to ensure their interests are acknowledged throughout the transition. I think rather than acknowledged, I imagine if they read that, they were happy, are catered for or something like that.
Supported.
Are supported, yeah. Acknowledged means like, okay, we acknowledge, but you're not actually doing anything.
Might be true though.
I think so.
Supported means that we will support their interests. It doesn't mean we'll deliver exactly what they want. So it's maybe a bit of a middle ground.
Just to think of a different word that's more actually
Not a resolution here.
doing something.
I need to have your collective word because
Yeah.
the next word I pick will be similarly debated, I imagine. So you guys can arrange a particular word for that.
I
one, right?
suggested catered for, because it means supported,
I'm two options.
I'm worried about catered for being very presumptuous.
but that's our interpretation of catered for.
I don't think catered is right.
I get hungry.
What about considered? Because considered may or was considered because it denotes
Uh,
ongoing. Whereas if you say
Considered,
acknowledged,
yes.
you've just acknowledged it, done. Whereas if you've been considered throughout the transition, it's always
Yeah.
on your mind.
Taken into account.
I think considered is nice. It's sort of like a, are we happy with considered there?
Considered throughout.
Okay, considered instead. I can take that one out. Thank you, Jackie. Tourism, we're all right. Education, we're all right. Martin?
Well, I could spend the rest of the year talking about education or move on.
Research facility at Sulphur Point. Yeah.
Tourism, could we just put, I know it's sort of pushing the barrier of mine, but could we just mention?
No, you don't do that.
Mention the green room just somewhere in there because it was a New Zealand leading program that got national recognition. So it's probably, you know.
Quite cool too, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'd be happy to.
Everyone okay with that?
Conflict of interest thing.
I know. Well, I declare my conflict. of interest.
You don't want
That's
to put
fine.
it in
I
the,
won't vote on it. You vote on it. 3 words. Dark green.
Yeah.
Or Te Reo okay.
The question, the answer is yes.
Um,
He said I could vote. We'll get there.
waste infrastructure before marine research facility, page 58. waste infrastructure. So
Yeah.
did council get the concept imagery or?
Yes, right, for the marine.
Yeah.
Yes, got that.
But not during this financial year though.
March 2025, it says here. I
Yeah,
think,
when,
I didn't think we did get it. 54 or
we
58.
had to be our breakfast down there.
Yeah, when was that?
That would have been around, I think, because that
Around March.
it was
Oh,
end of
okay.
March.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was a summer
Somewhere
in
around
your
there.
plan.
Did I miss the British
So,
Because the
Yeah,
chilly
it did
water, I
actually.
remember that.
It was cold.
lovely walk and saw pretty pictures.
Can I backtrack one to waste infrastructure? So the discussion here is with approximately 70% of Taurunga's waste going to landfill, TCC is investigating a network to lift diversion to 75 or more. And then you go to page 77 of the document, and there's a little graphic there that will be filled in, which talks about diverted something of our waste from landfill that's in tons. It'd be nice to kind of have a consistent narrative there and a consistent messaging. And for me, the messaging should be quite neutral, like just factual, rather than good, bad, whatever. And just in both cases, maybe talk about the total tonnage and the amount diverted or percentage. So you can actually read both sections, you'll get the same message, basically. As opposed to what we have done at times, which is certain parts where we sort of say, we're no bad and all this stuff, but we actually have no idea whether that's a lot or a little, or, so to me, just that nice, factual, consistent messaging. You can add 3 words. Jeremy approved 3.
Marine Research Park.
We should have a controversial section.
This is it.
Yeah.
We're in there.
Sorry.
So we're talking about a full project expected mid-year. We've already passed mid-year, so we probably just need to say when that's expected.
Later on, 20.
You're not going to put due for reconsideration.
Well, that's why I want to make sure we're comfortable. Oh, sorry, back in wastewater. So right at the beginning, 24-25 council, did we approve work on a citywide, what is it? We don't advance, we don't do stuff. So did we approve work on a citywide waste infrastructure business network case? Network business case. So we approve rather than advance, please. Zero Waste in Schools Initiative. Jackie Glenn. Big hit.
It's quite a bit in there, but I think it's actually, if someone's interested in it, they'll probably be interested in the whole lot.
Somebody's written well and you're happy with it, then we're fine. So approach page 2.
Oh, there's nothing in the alternative to that, so that's what's there, so I don't think we can change that at all.
How many times are we actually naming people across the report?
Rarely, the mayor will get a name mentioned sometimes.
Yeah.
Obviously here, Henny, it's just factually correct. And obviously, all your names and pictures are in other places, so people can cross-reference if they want to look for it.
No, I'm just thinking Stacey coming in. We haven't done that elsewhere, is it?
No.
Inconsistent?
Yeah, we can change that.
I think it's good to put things like cookie dokie in for us that are special merit or merit and stuff. That's easy.
And I think we've got we formally honoured long-serving Māori leaders, naming them as good, but it's just an odd thing to, yeah, we welcomed a new strategic engagement, I would have thought. Seemed consistent. I'd get feedback from you and Henry and Jackie on any of that. It's all well done.
Jeremy, question for you. You probably know this more than anyone. Are we under the sustainability graph? And importantly, yeah, we're well underway developing the process for start from the climate sustainable goals.
Which number are you on?
This is page 64 under sustainability.
Yeah.
Yeah, to embed climate goals and sustainability goals across the delivery rights. Never sort of exploration of that. Is work well underway?
Work is well underway. It's been built into the work that James is doing as far as the project sort of life cycle and pseudo business case. That's not quite a business case, but implementation.
So if just to make sure I'm understanding, like if we're doing that for climate sustainability goals, thinking of how broad sustainability is, part of what Mahe said, and I keep quoting him, misquoting him, from this first meeting at Smart Growth, where he said we need to have all our capital projects, look at the life cycle of them right through construction and beyond. So is this just up to the point of construction? And what Mahe is talking about in terms of getting present values and costs and emissions and impacts beyond construction, is that the boundary? You're not working beyond the actual.
I'd have to take the details back.
Because that would be quite helpful to, firstly to know for us, but secondly to make sure we get that right.
So I can check that. I take a degree of responsibility the sustainability team of the climate resilience team in a week and a half's time. It's not
And then you'll be really good at it.
So
you're more familiar with it. Good at it. I don't know.
a key point is that anyone who reads this has probably got an interest in sustainability, and the immediate thing that jumps out is, well, that's nice, but it only goes to the point of construction. And then what about the whole life cycle, emissions life cycle, all the costs or the other things for the whole life, the building or the road or whatever it is we're doing. And to me, talking about delivery life cycle as opposed to life cycle of the assets. If it's correct, I'm fine, but I think very much sure we've got forward.
Would you have that on that first paragraph, that once this process is developed and tested through piloting over the coming year, it'll help us? I would tend to take all of that out. That's just sort of a bit of narrative. It's not saying what's happened. It's a little bit of, is that actually, we might be reporting on that for the next 5 years, but is that, to me, that's just a little bit of extra wording I'd probably take out. But it's almost promising something, and let's deliver it before we promise it. All right. So even that, and we have found there's been variability in the way the climate impact statements have been considered and written within Tauranga City Council reports. Again, that's a bit narrative-y. It's not this is what's happened in the year. We're not putting observations through the rest of the report.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's adding anything.
I found it very interesting, but I also take the point, so I'll let others comment. I can go either way.
Yes, I guess this talks to one of your opening points, which is around there's good and there's bad. The first paragraph is good intent, it's in there, and the second paragraph is it's not always working particularly well. So it's the open and honesty approach.
Yeah, I'd appreciate that myself. But I see both sides.
But in your hands, again, it doesn't change the annual report if we take out paragraph 2 under climate impact statement, or it doesn't particularly change if we leave it in.
I think it should come out.
So it's in or out? Not hearing much.
Out, unless I've got objections. Otherwise you're okay with emissions profile, but we've got quite a lot of yellows that will come in. Reduction plan. Any objections? You're just going to talk if you need to, aren't you, Steve?
Yeah, I'll butt in. I do like the picture of the Papamoa Library.
Excellent. Yeah. Okay, so approach results, we're all there. Working beyond Tauranga approach, anyone want to talk about that smart growth strategy, page 468?
Get a region central roundabout. At this point, it's the same. When the planning changes come through, it's going to get a region. But this particular report is unchanged.
So we on smart growth, are we talking about the fact we've gone from strategy to implementation? Because that was quite a big change when we've no longer have the independent chair and said, well, we've got a strategy, let's now implement. That doesn't seem to be reflected in here to me.
I think it'd be helpful to explain that in this plain language around the change in approach to having an independent chair. And I certainly should be the last person who should write that because I still don't understand it. But whoever understands it should write the sentence.
Yeah, I guess I do.
Yes, I think it's really just to talk about the governance. Really, you know, it's important that the governance, we just have a sentence on smart growth governance.
On page 69, I'm very reluctant to point out because I enjoyed reading it, but I think in the city centre increases in football, publicly football, but I'll be really happy if it stays as football because I want to see more football in the city centre.
69 under ODM 5.1.
How many more pages?
My version, we have got another 45.
No worries.
Yeah.
Accelerate.
Well, we can just say we've got it, but I think we've got talk for 2 more minutes, and then we know how long we meant to be here. We have 2 hours. Okay, we're fine. So the city and events calendar. So again, is this a requirement of an annual report?
No.
Okay.
Might be optional.
So we are happy that we still put this in. If it doesn't have to go in.
Got to celebrate that. We're bigger than the Olympics.
Okay.
That's got to be in.
Yeah, events are huge.
People are going to get to do stuff.
Just, yeah. No brainer.
Awards and recognition. I'm assuming somebody will have checked all of that, so that's all good stuff. Here's the question. I just wonder whether the Māori Leadership Awards, which were up in there, are they different to these awards and finalists here?
Don't you know the answer to that question?
I'd be very happy that they're in both, but just to make sure that I wouldn't take them out of there, but they're probably something that Puiraki's honour I would have thought should be.
Yeah, this section here is about staff and about
Okay.
council organisation, not somebody else.
Okay.
Kieran was simply for surviving 20 years with us.
Okay.
The Wasteman's Awards joint first place. It'd be quite good to have a little 2, 3 words, what it needs to be to say what the winning entry was for, because we've got for the Pōtekawa, Whitau Road, a tree of the year, and we've got your Manawa Falls for the woods. So it'd just be nice to sort of explain what is it that our Westlands thing was teamed in to get that award.
Yeah.
A small heading to that.
Just in the table or separately.
Just in the table, like the other ones, just copy
Yeah.
what's done for those other few.
We've got graphics on, so we're now on 76. And I think, again, just that conversation we had earlier about in the opening about, you know, the role of TCCs, the scope of what investment is made in the city is changing from the changed economic indicators, and this, but the rate of growth is putting pressure on our city. That just ties it in because we've already talked about it at the beginning.
Just on the graphic there, page 74, Stella, you've got the operating revenue, capital and asset values and debt to revenue. Just some of those are fairly self-explanatory, but
74 and
It's 70.
Stella, just some explanation around debt revenue ratio, just stuff that a lot of people think, what's the context of that, like at LGFA and why it's required, what it means in terms of one of the financial drivers, because it is, just a bit of a description about the debt revenue ratio and how significant it is, because it is a really significant.
We could probably
Key
just put
financial
that in that
driver.
little black box above it, explaining these are some of the key financial metrics that are monitored by credit rating agencies and our lenders. And then you've got the things below.
And it's critical when we're designing budgets and stuff.
Yeah.
And also like things like depreciation, explanation about that, how it works and what drivers and what.
so what we put in that slide on the annual plan consultation would be good, because I think having operating revenue, we should also have operating costs. So we've made a few changes on that slide. Remember the one that we had a balanced budget and we had the
table, the key financial metric table, that's a little bit further down in this section here, and it's got the total operating revenue, total operating expenditure, headcount, FTEs, total assets, net debt, debt to revenue ratio.
But is it in a one page, like the one we did for the annual plan consultation was just a one slide, and it was just quite a good snapshot.
We'll
It's
have a
quite
look at
similar.
Yeah.
Once we maybe when we look further down, we can decide that too much detail.
We'll bring whatever's further down up here, because if we're just trying to put one picture in, then it might have to go twice.
We go forward to page 87 or
No, we can, yep.
so on that one, my view is that there should be a couple of extra lines in there, I think, because of the scale of our operational projects of capital nature. And there's always two ways of looking at that.
Three.
On the one hand, you've got, it is still capital type delivery. So in terms of what we deliver, that's one message. And then there's another message that says what we end up kind of owning as cities' assets. So to me, it'd be clearer just to break it out and just have the sort of, you know, the CapEx, TCC CapEx, and then the operational projects of capital nature, and then add the
We've done it in the outer piece.
yeah,
we can do it,
exactly. Yeah, and then it raises the issue of with the OpRev and OpEx. You know, is that going to accurately reflect that? Does it needs to be a link with a asterisk or footnote or something there? And then the other line is whether you need to say the deficit, you know, the operating deficit. and what that should be stated as to most accurately reflect the true deficit as you see it.
So we circle back though on what Councillor Field was saying, isn't that exactly this table you want us to look at?
Or maybe just, sorry,
Which is the best one to present, the one you had in the consultation document.
right, so that is that, okay.
Well, it's only, but that's only 1 year. It was in the
Yeah,
contract,
so
and this is trying to show it across years, but
You
the,
like that presentation.
correct, yeah.
So we would add the 1 year up in the infographic, but we'd keep this other table with the 5 years of comparatives.
With
further
all
down.
of the comparatives that are in that, the one,
No,
one.
here's the new layout. So just
No, I think
do this layout.
as you, table's fine for the years, but if it's a 1 year graphic at the top, that would be great. Because it's only 1 year.
Table at the top
No, the graphic.
and infographics and boxes.
Well, it was in, I can't,
Okay. Yeah, I'll have to go back and have a look, but I've got it. I think I've got Jen's thing.
but it's, yeah, to me, having the operational surplus deficit would be good rather than us having to decide what it is.
It does get discussed further down in that section, but I can add a line with that
That'd be great.
in there and then refer for the explanations further.
And I just want to check, what, is it correct, there was $142 million budgeted deficit, is that what was budgeted?
I think we'll have to have a think about that budget deficit because it's
Yeah,
going to create a lot of confusion in this report because LGFA is different.
I know.
They use the calculator that includes capital revenues.
And so that's further.
And so it's prudent, right? So I think we should relook at it and present it to you and so we're trying to get some consistency across all of these. Otherwise, we have one document with 3 measures, it's going to be at the same time.
So I'm probably being selfish, but it'd be great if you could clarify, because otherwise I'm going to actually send a whole lot of emails to people when they write to me about it.
Yeah.
And now we're on. What's the title of the top of page? 84 or 88?
Yeah, that seems to.
Have it above, then we have got a, what, about Toriko West Transportation Enabling Works is funded by, has that got a title, that section?
Flows from previous.
Pardon?
Flows.
It flows from, yeah, it seems.
City operations and stuff, and then the key
I think
financial
it's the description of the key financial trends. The table flows, but it does.
Are you talking about where it says the table below shows the operating deficit along with a breakdown of expenditure, which is not funded by operating revenue?
No, so I'm on page 87, the table above,
Tariko Street.
and then it starts with Toriko West, so top of 88, I'm not sure what those relate to.
Oh yeah, I'll probably put something out of audit there. I'll sort that out.
Thank you. So waters, again, will probably, water reforms, will we have to have a look at?
Yes, I wrote this a couple of months ago.
Yeah. Thank you. Housing Equity Fund, on the basis of the conversation yesterday, do we need anything on that?
correct, so it's probably.
That's correct up to that.
Yeah. Capital delivery, I'm not sure if that's literally true, because we're sort of saying Cameron Road Stage 2 and Tariff 15, which requires rescoping and entity approval. Well, we didn't, to the best of my knowledge, we didn't rescope Tariff 15. And
This whole section is going to be rewritten by Susan, who's a lot closer to the capital stuff. This was me trying to get placeholder
Okay.
information in for the last
well, then
meeting.
we won't,
You'll see that on the 2nd of September.
oh, okay,
Okay, so we've got,
that makes sense, it's from the previous. To the
Yeah.
iteration.
so now on 91.
maybe. I'm just
I think
wondering,
the same colour wheel from the,
Yes.
so, yeah, just like, yeah, consistency with our imagery.
Correct.
This is straight from Excel. When it goes through the designer, it will get put into that more consistent colour scheme.
yes, what I was going
Oh, sorry, 91.
But it's the methodology from the annual plan, because previously we provided tree graphs, but now it's the donut
Yeah, just that people can,
kind of.
they
look,
can
yeah.
hold things together, yeah, they can see a change.
And will water, wastewater and stormwater all have, I remember, I can't remember what happened, but I remember raising it in a meeting about if they were like different shades of blue or something, rather than have transport as one shade of blue and water as another, you know, what I mean, like sort of group things. Because they both do sort of, I mean, all three of those sort of could have a theme of colour, which is
Yeah.
presumably blue is good.
So,
If you want
You wouldn't
orange,
want brown, eh? But
Wastewater, hey.
no,
But
but
the
the
blue
question,
consistency
Yeah,
versus.
yeah,
Clear colour.
Putting
And
your
show
plans.
yeah.
But
See what
if
happened
people
in Wellington this morning?
change it, I guess.
I have
Yeah.
Yeah.
We just
Yeah.
change plans and you have got some
Yeah,
colour
we
schemes
saw
already.
that.
Yeah.
Shut down from Silverdale, Silverside, no, with me.
Silver stream,
Silver Stream right through to Petone, all closed because of.
okay,
Nice.
going through the 90s.
Sorry.
Great era.
The 90 pages, you all okay? New dwellings and CCCs issued. Page 94. Risk management. Steve, you're on 95.
I'm on my way into nature, so I can't see, but
Okay.
I'm enjoying the conversation.
Get us a pie.
So are those graphs, the net dwelling consents and CCs, they just placeholder titles as well as graphs themselves?
This is live information that I got from the building team.
I might. But number of new dwellings and consents, is it the same graph twice or am I just missing something?
Oh no, yeah.
193 and 94.
Yeah, I think I've doubled up a graph,
Oh, yeah.
but the DC graph will stay and I'll kill one of those.
Yep.
The risk management, watertight and contingency reserves. That's created by council, so they are, what does created by council mean? So that they
That's
are,
creative reserves are just the way that council had decided to kind of record and present that, whereas restricted reserves, of course, isn't it, Jeremy, are ones that have controls over what movement can happen in and out of them.
Yeah, my knowledge of Afghanistan is a bit like on my way, but the restricted reserves are areas where we are restricted as to what we can use funds for. So, for instance, a targeted rate, you can only use that for the targeted rate purposes, whereas a reserve like these ones is established by your predecessors to put money aside for a particular purpose, and therefore they can unrestrict that, unreserve it at any stage in the future. It's simply a council decision.
Yeah. From an accounting sense, you're not actually putting money aside technically in the jar, you're recording.
that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. So so that's what I think we had created, to me, is like a bit of an odd, is it the risk management fund and watertight reserves enable
established by
Council.
council, so council decided to say, I want to record this in reserve and I'm going to put money into it and show the community what's happening. So it's a kind of a record.
But that's what I mean, enable that to be enable transparency of the amount that's in there.
Yeah.
It's sort of rather than creating a reserve, suggest that you are putting it in there and then it can be used later.
Yeah, people think it's a cash reserve.
Correct,
It's not.
yeah, yeah.
I-
Okay, so we just, can you look at some words on that one, please?
On page 96, where it's got the funding for supporting community groups and initiatives.
So sorry, I'm just, can
Oh,
I
sorry.
keep
Oh.
going on? So just on that and the, we've just got double upper paragraphs. Sorry. Steve?
On the funding, community funding,
Which page? Oh, yeah.
on 96, I'm presuming this is not including contracts or other funding. It's just sort of like a support funding, if you like, for certain entities here. So could we make that clear? Because there's been quite a bit of community talk, over the last couple of years around particular entities and funding, and there's been Lagoimas, and so there's information and it's been contrasted to what's here. So we don't have to do anything different, but except just clarify it proactively. I think would save us a bit of explanation if we just say this includes, core funding, whatever the wording needs to be, but does not include some
Delivery contracts.
delivery contracts
Service
for,
delivery
for
contracts,
some of the organisations listed here.
Oh, yes, we do get questions on it, don't we?
Unless you want to go to the bother
That's
of
what I
couple of
know.
those and adding them in.
It's sort of, this is the one place to bring together all those other agencies that are council.
What would be an example of one of the service delivery contracts that is?
Oh, the big one that's always looked at is priority one, because they got over 2 million in one financial year and it was listed as something like 1.6. So there's a Lagoima done, and then the person, was sort of saying you need to be transparent.
But that could have been that we should have put that criteria, that 2 million. We should try and pick those things up in the year when you're saying, when you're supporting them, not just for ongoing operations, but for one-off, then we would aim to put them in here. I would think. If the purpose on it is to say how have we
That would be
our
ideal.
delivery through other agencies, then we should be.
Okay.
But yes, you wouldn't go so far as to say we paid City Care to
No, you
do
wouldn't
maintenance.
broaden the list. No.
Yeah.
Okay. No, that'd be great if you can.
So on page 98, I'm again confused with the nomenclature. So I think collectively we are the council, capital C, under the definitions. And then we say Tauranga City Council, which we say is everybody, is made up of 9 ward councillors and a mayor, but the council is 9 ward councillors and we govern TCC. So I just think we're not quite clear, going back to Steve's definitions.
So are Steve's definitions available to us? But I haven't seen them.
Oh, okay.
Idea.
You just got complimented that you were already using them,
Yeah.
so I assumed you'd seen them.
Pure
Steve
genius.
will share the one with me.
Yes, I'll share them. They were actually in when I used Jeremy's feedback form during the annual plan. And, but I'll pull it out and circulate.
Thank you.
But when people say the bloody council, it's not aimed at us. It's aimed at.
I take it personally every time.
Oh, do you?
Well, I'm not sure about that.
I'm not sure about that at all, right?
Okay, so we need to nail that. Who do they talk
Because they do me right in the face saying,
Well, you
bloody
could-
council.
You put a definition for bloody council, I'm quite.
Yeah. Fine it is.
Otherwise, we maybe.
No, it's a very tongue-in-cheek stab, and I feel life being in the back.
But we get across.
But also get accused of not fixing it well.
leaving us.
I presume this is where anyone wishes to update their picture, now is the time.
Yeah, better haircuts.
I'm only getting older, so I'm not updating mine ever. And so
Yeah,
probably on 100, page 100, Tauranga City Council operates as a representative democracy. Is that the whole of the council or our council? And council, yeah.
Looks like I've been to the most meetings. Thank you for that.
We didn't.
Don't worry, mate. You
I
haven't
would've
been to any,
thought.
so it doesn't matter, mate. You're not on the list.
Do you score highest, Mark?
The mayor scores highest.
Does he?
Out of us, please.
He's on all the committees.
Talk about the plebs, mate. Miles ahead.
People got you all the time.
You're correct. Well, it's not.
Because I was on every committee.
Yeah.
Is that a metric that we're measuring?
It's a hell of an important one, so it's up to Councillor Baker.
That's so fucking. It'll be great.
Yeah, it is. We need a grand total. See,
You were like for a couple.
Who's done the online trainings? That's what we should be measuring.
You're confident.
I do have some points I'd like to raise at the end when we finish going
Yeah.
through.
Because we're going to run out of time. We've got another thing coming up.
Into the wood here, I will just comment on the colour because I have got feedback from members of the community, which I think what happened was my suggestion around stormwater and wastewater and water were incorporated into a sort of purple shades, which is fine. But the feedback that I've had, for better or worse, and choose to ignore it at first, is that it's hard to distinguish between, say, the big clump that's transportation colour and the clump that's stormwater, sorry, or between the two orangey colours, places and places. And so the viewers, even though we have a colour scheme, because I parroted the party line and I sort of said, yes, we've got a colour scheme, purples and oranges and stuff. And the view was, yes, but you could also put primary colours on here and make it nice and easy for people hard of sight, older people who are struggling to see this, to actually stand out really clearly and make it an inclusive document for people of all abilities, disabilities, and so forth. So that's the feedback, to sort of, yes, fine to have a colour scheme, but don't do it at the expense of accessibility.
We got $1 each way. $12 each way.
Wow. Common sense. Maybe too late.
Audit and Risk Committee, page 112. Comprise an independent chair yet to be appointed, and you as deputy chair. Is that the role you're playing, Steve, at the moment, or you're chairing it?
No, yeah, I'm deputy chair. I'm
Okay.
definitely deputy chair or interim.
You, Steve Norris or Morris?
Norris.
Whichever one that doesn't quote
Morass.
with
Morass.
interesting lyrics.
Also refuse to go by Chuck.
I'm just noticing a change in, and I much prefer this one. Managing risk as a title. We've got the R as a little letter, not a large letter, which I think is much nicer. So I'm just on the top, just as a heading. So 112. I much prefer it like this. But at the top, we put risk with a capital R and audit with a capital A. But this is much nicer. Consistency back up would be great. And also just again on audit risk, it says ensured that we managed risk appropriately. Do we make it present because it's still going? I just think that most of it we haven't said, or actually on this we're saying on risk management we continued to identify. I would have thought, I think most of the rest of it is that we're just in the present, and if it's not changed, then we talk about it as if without the D on the end, without making it past tense. It's just a change in tone in this section. So an internal audit said this involves testing, as in now, but audit risk, we ensured that. So I think the testing is nicer. That's what's been through most of it.
Fine.
Okay, on the basis we've got Hotapa, you'd like to add something?
Yeah.
Will do.
Just quickly, acknowledging that the report, there's legislative requirements and it's also audited in there quite heavily. So there is a, I guess a targeted audience to the density of this kind of reporting, why it is so heavy. But I just want to pick back up on the principles and stuff that you mentioned at the start, Jen. We would probably like to would want us to focus our attention a little bit more on the general public of Tauranga who likely don't read this report, with the intention that we try and bridge that divide as much as we can and make it a lot more palatable and readable for the everyday person of Tauranga. So picking up on your principles of friendly, humble, was it concise and engaging?
Yeah.
I took and I'm sorry, staff, if you guys already do this exercise, I don't want to sound patronizing or anything like that at all. But taking last year's 348 odd page annual report, I chucked it in Copilot and asked it to, where is that? Write this in, yes please, write this into a concise version that a 12-year-old in New Zealand would understand. And it came through with actually some really cool reading, some really cool headlines and real basic information that if I was a 12-year-old would make sense and be relevant for me. Then I asked it to make a visual, which was something to this effect. So when it looks at who was in charge, it mentioned at a high level, Tauranga had a big change. We went from having a commission, like a temporary leaders, to electing a new mayor and councillors. Our new mayor is Mahe Drysdale, and then in brackets it's got, yes, the Olympic rower with an exclamation mark. And it's come up with a whole bunch of different things as well, on wastewater, getting around, looking after nature, homes and growth. So it said we added 500 new homes, big plans for new neighbourhoods in places like Tauriko West and Te Tumu. We're making rules to allow for more apartment townhouses, and it's got like fun stuff and events. Money stuff, it's got Tauranga owned $7.8 billion worth of stuff. We borrowed money to build things, but we're keeping it under control, don't worry. And we made $295 million from rates, the money that your mum and dad help to run the city. So it's kind of got that kind of languaging, nothing too dense, nothing too heavy. But when reading through this and then looking at the visual, I was like, potentially this is an avenue that we can take to bridge that information divide and actually make the annual report palatable, a little bit more palatable. So if that's not what we already do, it might be something worth exploring. If we do, I'll just shush. But this made, at a high level, it kind of makes sense to me. And something, if I had a 12-year-old kid at home and I was a person semi-interested in politics or local government, I would take them through and be like, this is what your council did. So it might also then become a useful resource.
Absolutely, we could do something like that. Would be a third document. The annual report is statutory what it has to be.
Yeah.
And the summary is statutorily what it has to be. And then the marketing documents or the other documents can be anything you want to invest in. If you want something like that creative.
Could be whatever. Like that's just Copilot me chucking it in.
So if the will of the table is to create something like that to put on the website or the back page of the Bay News or whatever, that's no.
Yeah,
Well, I'd like to combine that idea though. So I mean, I still think we're pretty wordy, and there were sections that are not statutorily required to put in there. So all this work's been done. So I don't want to say, well, let's undo it. But going forward, I would definitely like to say, I would like a shortening. I'd like to halve the size of next year's annual report. So like we said, can we be involved early? And you've got us involved, thank you. But it's already been, quite a lot has been written. So what do we do as a process-wise to ask the question, and is it in January next year to say, let's think about what do we think needs to be conveyed in the annual report? And absolutely, let's say these are absolutely requirements, but what else is just extra information that, and are we adding enough good information to people can read? Because it becomes the Bureau or council, oh my God, they have a 300-page report. And you guys have to do it, right? So you're doing the hard work. And so it's not saying we don't like it. It's just, is that adding value? You guys having to put this together. So
So just be aware on that, if we have what you've gone through today, next year,
yes,
we would turn a 350-page document into a 300-page,
I know.
but it's still a 300-page.
100%. Yeah, I agree. But potatoes is better than.
If it's on the table, then we can make it, yeah, just next year.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks so much.
Do I have permission to talk to staff at some point about the health and safety and wellbeing section to make a couple of suggested changes? I can clarify them now if you want to take a minute, or I can.
You got a minute?
Okay, I think it needs to be much clearer, that section. We've got some complex narratives that are going to be assumed. We're basically saying we're going to have 3 fewer, overall incident numbers for contractors and a whole lot more for staff. That's bad. We've brought city ops in there. The thinking could be they've had lots more injuries. Now we've brought them in-house. That's probably not the reality. I think what it looks like when you go into detail is there's been more measured because of the systems we've put in place. And if you read some of those bullet points, it kind of tells that story a bit. But I think we need to be a lot clearer that, the injuries have gone down in this case, up in this case, same for the public, whatever it is, and just be just very factual around those, but breaking it down into injuries, non-injury, and why the number of incidents has gone up. And that's presumably, correct me if I'm wrong, but presumably because of the reporting, training, and how to report things. And so I think, feel free to come back if I won't take more time now. I think it'd be really helpful. So people might listen back.
No, it's just gone from not reporting sticky plaster injuries to reporting sticky plaster injuries.
But that's a question. I don't want to assume that.
So yes, you can chat stuff. But
Thank you, Tim.
So we'll have.
thank you, Sam.
If anyone
Why
wants.
did you say-